Hello YouTube, your old Uncle Carl here coming back at you with another easy prepping video. Today I want to talk about bugging in, bugging out. A while back in a video I mentioned that I didn't even have a bug out bag packed because we have no intention of bugging out. And I had a commenter come back at me with that I really should have a bug out bag, and perhaps he's right. Perhaps we should have one as a just in case. But I can't imagine maybe just one scenario that would cause us to bug out, and that would be a forest fire, since we live in the woods. But this area, knock on wood, has not had one at least in a very long time. We don't get drought conditions very often that would be leading to a forest fire type condition. So it's very, very low on my list as SHTF scenarios that we would have to bug out. But I thought I'd do a video on basic advice. I've been around for a while, and I've spent most of my life in subdivision type living. And in that case, you should have a bug out plan. Only you know your situation. Everybody's is different. Where you live, what the environment's like, what your weather is like. But you should have a plan. It's part of being prepared, and that's what we're all about, is being prepared. Well, of course, there's your bug out bag. And I'm not going to go into depth on that. I may at some other time, but there are probably 1,000,002 videos out here on YouTube about advice on what to have in your bug out bag. I think you should also take into consideration your potential bug out situation, because your geography's different, your area's, your weather's different. Just take those type things into consideration. Also, where you're bugging out to. Every bug out plan should have a bug out destination. Don't just plan on hopping in the car, hitting the road with your hiking boots with no plan, no destination in mind. Have a place to go. And being as the wife and I live out here in the country, our family and close friends, this is their location. This is where they're bugging out to. That's why I've prepped more than what I think I would need for just the wife and I, is the potential of having family and close friends coming here in case of an SHTF scenario. When considering bugging out, every situation is going to be different. Which type of SHTF are you looking at? But I think one of the main considerations is, how safe is it where you're at? Is it getting worse where you're at? And what are the conditions where you plan on bugging out to? Is it safer there? Basically, use some common sense, whether to bug out or not. And make a decision. One thing my father raised me, tried to beat into me, was make a decision. Even if it's wrong, it's better than no decision. What I'm leading up to is, don't freeze. Apparently this is a very common thing in people in high stress situations, which is what deciding to bug in or out would be. It'd be very high stress. And you go into situation overload. Your brain can't handle it. One way to get around that is to have a plan. It may make you stop and think more clearly, and to make an intelligent decision on whether to bug in or bug out, and to do something. Don't just freeze and stand there. It is said that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And I think that's true. And in this case, the enemy could be a wide range of things. I think the biggest could be other people. But keep that in mind. And I think one of the ways to keep your plan together as best you can is to have communications. The first thing I'd recommend would be a dependable AM radio to receive news, civil alerts, those kind of things. If you're unaware, there's most areas have a 50,000 watt AM radio channel that is supposed to kick into emergency mode during SHTF situations. So, communications. Stay in communication with your group. Of course, this would be your first method, but don't count 100% on that. Think of other methods you might have to stay in communication if you were to be separated from your group. Another is to have a mode of defense. I have tried to ensure that people heading in this direction, that this is their bug out location where they're going to try to get to, that they are armed and know how to use those safely and accurately. Next, I'd recommend that your bug out plan take into account variables that could come into play affecting your bug out situation. The first would be, is it night or day? Can you see where you're going? If you can't see where you're going, well, the one advantage would be any bad guys couldn't see where you are either. But it's one thing to take into consideration. Is it night or day? The next would be your social environment. I'm thinking things like riots was first to come to mind. If your main route to your bug out location takes you in the direction of where social unrest is going on, definitely avoid that. Go miles out of your way if you have to. Avoid any social unrest. Next would be, of course, weather. Depends on your area. What type of weather do you get? Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it snow plus wind causing drifts? Is it hot? Cold? If it's cold, you have cold weather in your area, you need to take into consideration having ways to stay warm, coats, blankets, etc. Next, be able to consider alternate routes. And once again, don't count on this 100%. I'd highly recommend getting paper maps. And somewhere around here, I still have one from the 70s, but there's a road atlas. And I've just checked online, and Rand McNally still puts out a road atlas for the entire country. I highly recommend having one of these as a on paper method to be able to plan alternate routes. One thing is, I live fairly close to the New Madrid Fault area, and I believe I pointed out to my friends and relatives that there are situations where the bridges across that big ass river between Kentucky and Indiana may not be available. Another thing to consider on your route is, well, that brings up choke points. It's where a whole lot of people might be funneling into a very tight area of transportation. And that's one example is my friends and relatives trying to get across the Ohio River, and there are a limited number of bridges. There's quite a few, but it's not infinite. It's not like you could just walk across the river. So that's something to take into choke points and have alternate routes. In summation, I'd like to say I think the highest point here is to have a plan for your bug out, or even if you bug in. But have a plan. Your worst enemy could be freezing up and not doing anything. And I firmly believe that having a well thought out plan could help prevent that from happening. So that's what we do as preppers. We plan in advance and try to be prepared, be ready for any possibility. If any of you out there have some suggestions on what we could add here, better ways to plan, to be prepared for bugging in or bugging out, please let me know in the comments, and we'll perhaps look at doing another video putting those suggestions in there. And lastly, as always, if you have not clicked that subscribe button yet to be a subscriber to the Easy Prepping channel, please do so. If you've liked the video, well, give it that you liked it thumbs up. And if you know someone who could benefit from the information provided here, click that share button and do that. And as a card-carrying member of the Possum Lodge, chapter 13, I'm going to close with our lodge slogan, Quando omni fluncis moritate. If all else fails, play dead. Thanks for watching.